Your client could be in Hong Kong and you might be in California, for example, and you can both be in a room, virtually speaking, where you're giving a big pitch of your new logo design. And I, for one, accept our AI overlords. To give you some context, when I started designing, Mark Zuckerberg was still a student in college, and actually Facebook hadn't even got to grips in the mainstream. It was still something that was just used in various different universities. It was actually in 2006 when finally you could sign up to Facebook if you were over the age of 13. Sounds pretty crazy, right? But that's when I actually started graphic design. That's where I started my journey as a designer. Now, me, back in 2006, I wasn't busying myself with Facebook. No. I was actually learning software like Photoshop and Illustrator. And actually thinking about it, to me, life was a lot more beautiful before social media became a thing. But anyway, I digress. That's a different story for maybe a different day. But since that time when I started designing, I've seen automation become more and more apparent in the graphic design world. You know, we have things like in Photoshop where you can select the subject to remove a background, which is completely automated at this point, to Adobe Illustrator being a mathematical genius. So yeah, I've seen things change even in my time as a graphic designer. And we have to think back to the 1950s when graphic design was all done with these things here, with hands. It was all handmade and handcrafted. And back then, the designers who failed to adopt and appreciate and embrace the computing world, they got pretty much left behind over time. And this wasn't something that happened, overnight. It was a gradual thing, but they got left behind eventually. So in the future of graphic design, it's going to pay to be adaptable. If you are adaptable and you can adapt to things and embrace change, that's only going to serve you in a positive way. And I got a comment the other day that said something like, it's a shame to see someone who I respect, as in they're talking about me, embrace or use AI in their design workflow. Here's the thing with that. AI is not the be-all and end-all, at least not at the moment. We still need, as graphic designers, to call the shots, to make decisions, and prepare the final design to pitch to the client. That's all something we do as humans. But AI can save a whole lot of time. For example, if you want to come up with concepts or, get to know a target audience, would you rather spend hours or days perhaps coming up with a concept or concepts, or quickly use ChatGPT to come up with loads of different possible concepts and then take those from there in your own direction? We have things like generating mock-ups with AI, we have loads of different things that just save us time, and it's not stealing away from the creativity because we still need that. The creativity from a designer is still required in the final outcome. But going back to the saving time thing, graphic design as a career, or if you're someone who does take this seriously as a career, you want to make money because, well, you need to live, right? And time is essentially money in the business world. And as you progress as a designer, you will realize the more time you can save, the better. And that's not cheating with AI. That's just making your life easier, streamlined, and making your workflows quicker. Something else very important that a lot of people miss, or some people miss at least, and that is psychology. Graphic design is visual communication, and at the heart of it is psychology, or it should be psychology. And often that's what separates an intermediate or beginner designer from someone who's really advanced, and that is they understand how psychology is built and woven into the graphic design process and solution. And at the moment, AI cannot take into consideration psychology and then build that into design solutions. Heck, it can't even get typography right, let alone take psychology into consideration in the design process. But yeah, we are at the moment in the same position the designers were back in the 50s, when computers were the size of entire rooms, and now, well, they're pretty small. It took, maybe 3-4 decades to get from the 50s to where graphic design was completely done on computers for the most part. I'm not saying it's going to take 40 years from now until when AI is completely dominant, because things do seem to be ramping up in an exponential way, but it's not going to happen overnight. Something I do see happening in the future of graphic design is linked to how society is going to be, and that is biometric data. I think that the future is going to be very personal in the sense that we're going to have access to things like the metaverse potentially and loads of different gadgets where our data is observed by other people and ourselves. Someone needs to design the interfaces for these new things. So imagine you're at a bar or a restaurant and you're wearing specific glasses where you can see everybody's details in the room with you. Someone's going to need to design the interfaces, the UI, how it looks, everything. So that's going to be a big part of the future, in my opinion. And this design will adapt in real time. So as you're walking down the street, you might see a sign, and on the glasses, it will say information about that sign and, that place, location, and so on. And then we've got the whole thing about VR and the metaverse. The world of the future might be completely immersive in some respects at least. Or who knows, the metaverse might just be complete hype and flop and people don't really want to adopt it. But imagine for a second it did exist and it is a big part of the future. As designers, you might be pitching to clients using VR headsets. Your client could be in Hong Kong and you might be in California, for example, and you can both be in a room, virtually speaking, where you're giving a big pitch of your new logo design. I just don't think we're going to get to a point anytime soon where companies or clients completely kill the middleman and just go straight to AI, press a button, and there's a design. I do, however, think that the low-tier designers, the ones who work on Fiverr for, say, $5, I think they're going to be pushed out of the market pretty easy with AI. But for functional, intelligent design where psychology is at the heart of it, I think for now, at least for the next decade or two, designers are going to have a big role in that as humans. We need to call the shots and we need to make decisions and see the end solution to the very end. But hey, who knows? There might be some kind of AI that takes over the world tomorrow and we enter the singularity, if that's even a thing. And I, for one, accept our AI overlords. Actually, scratch that. I quite fancy myself being a designer for the next few years. But what are your thoughts? What do you think about the future of design? What do you think about things that we talked about in today's video? I'd love to hear what you think about this world of graphic design that we do adore so much and operate in. But if you would like to learn some really cool things about being an advanced designer, just click that video on screen. And until next time, guys, design your future today. Peace.